In Unity, GetKey or GetButton are ways of receiving input from keys or joystick buttons via Unity's input class. The core differences between the two is that GetKey specifically names keys for you using key codes. For example, the spacebar is represented by keycode.space. This works just fine for keyboard, but it's recommended that you use GetButton instead and specify your own controls. The Input Manager gives you the ability to name an input and specify a key or button for it, and can be accessed by choosing Edit, Project Settings, Input from the top menu. Then, when calling it, you can reference a name using a string. For example, jump. This is a default input represented by the spacebar, but we could put in a different key or button code in order to change the input that represents jump. Then, when calling this button, you can reference the name using the string jump. To find out what to write into your positive button, check the reference in the documentation or look at the table that accompanies this lesson. When using GetKey or GetButton, these inputs have three states that return a boolean, true or false. First is GetKey or GetButton. This will register true or false depending on whether the button is being pressed or not. So currently the key is not being pressed, so GetButton is returning false. When we first press the key, it then returns true on the first frame. Then as we progress through frames, holding down the button, GetButton down returns to false. GetButton still equals true, so we can check if the button is being held. Then when we release the button, GetButton up shows true, but only again on the first frame. As we continue, all values return to false. So let's run through that again. When the button is not being touched, everything is false. When we first press the button, we can check for this using GetButton down, which will return true. Also, GetButton will return true. After the first frame, GetButton down returns to false, so you can use this for tasks like firing a weapon once. Then as we continue to hold down, only GetButton will return true. Then when we release, GetButton up returns true for a single frame, and then thereafter returns back to false. You should note that GetKey behaves exactly the same way, only that the code is written slightly differently. In order to check for a button, we use the string of the title that was placed in the Input Manager, jump, but when checking for a very specific key, we can use key codes. Because this only pertains to the exact key, it's recommended that you use GetButton and specify the inputs using the Input Manager, as shown earlier.